Chris DeLeenheer, welcome to the Unfinished Leadership Podcast. Good to see you, my man.
Oh, it's great to be back.
And here we are. This is not your first time on the pod. Back by popular demand. I don't know if you knew this. Yeah, your mom's been emailing me like, I'm like, Peg, ease up. I mean, something like a weekly email.
You can't ever frown on a mom that's for you. It's so
right. No,
thank you, Mom.
But I do love your mom. Hello to Ron and Peggy, but to your dad and mom. But no, a number of people watched your last podcast when you were on, and you shared a lot about your story and your journey, and it was great. And you and I talk a lot. You're one of my closest friends. I got to be your coach over the last 2 years. Unfinished Leadership, man.
Life changing.
It's been amazing. And now you just released a brand new book. And so that's what I want to do for the next number of episodes is I want this to be like a virtual book tour. And there's so many people out there that need to know about this book. It's called The Quiet Drift. Here it is right here. Beautiful, colored blue.
I mean, I had to go with KC Blue.
I mean, KC Blue. You are a Kansas City boy originally. So this is a little nod to the Kansas City Royals.
Too. Yep.
Sure, why not? And congrats, man. It's not easy writing a book.
It is way harder than what people realize. And what I knew when I said yes to writing a book, I think I told you the story. I'm sitting in the sauna with a buddy of mine, JP, and he's
he endorsed it.
Yeah.
Pastor JP. What a stud. Awesome guy.
Yeah. He was, we were hanging out and he's like, Del, you got a lot to say. And there's a book in you.
No kidding.
And, and I had folks kind of like, encourage that, but for some reason it just landed more. And I was like, yeah, I need to do that.
A lot of what that guy says lands.
He's kind of got that gift.
I mean, he's speaking all over the country.
He is.
He's incredible.
He just did the America 250 event in DC.
Jeez.
So he shared the gospel at that event. And
awesome of him to write the foreword on this. And I didn't know the backstory that really he spoke into you in the sauna that day and was like, bro, you got a book in you. That's awesome.
So it's like an encouragement, right? Of like sometimes when we, give somebody a holy nudge, it can kind of change the trajectory. And honestly, writing it, man, obviously I hope it blesses folks. And, if there's, people that are feeling stuck or lost in any way, that it'll help them find home. But man, for me, it was so good. I mean, just the journey of kind of tracking your own story. There's something about writing that really even crystallizes, how do I really think about things and, what is kind of my internal cadence and operating system. So it was very hard, but it was very rich.
I'm proud of you. It's a hard project to do and to stick with it and to get it over the goal line. And I felt God put it on my heart to, hey, let's do a handful of episodes. I don't know exactly how many we're going to do on this book, but instead of doing one like 4-hour Joe Rogan style podcast, both you and I have ADD. That wouldn't work. So we're gonna cut that down into probably 4 or 5 of these, and I think it'll be just really helpful for more people to hear about the quiet drift. And you say something, we're going to get into it in a second, that most Christian leaders don't fail publicly; they drift quietly. What an incredible statement. Most Christian leaders don't fail publicly. They drift quietly. So we're going to get into that in just a second. Before we do, most people probably don't know who Chris DeLeenheer is. And obviously your network down in Waco, Texas, they do. But give us a 30-minute, 30-second spiel intro on
high level.
Yeah, man, you're bit, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I've been married 21 years. Wow. This is 21 coming up. To Libby, and very thankful. I got a good one.
Yeah, you
lucked
do.
Out.
Yeah.
I got 4 daughters, so I'm a girl dad. My oldest, Priya, is 19, headed to Auburn.
War Eagle.
Here in the fall. So we're kind of in the prep grieving process. They cleaned out her room yesterday. It took all day, and there's a lot in there. And so, we're it's like getting real. Just did our last family vacation. Obviously we'll do more when she's in college, but like with her under our roof. And so that's kind of a thing. Okay. And, I've got another daughter, Lainey, 17, Mackenzie's 16, and Lily's about to be 13. So
girl dad.
I'm a girl dad in teenage years. So I'm getting my black belt on female emotions and processing. And all that good stuff.
You're a former pastor. You were a pastor for a number of years.
Yeah, I was a church planner for a lot of years. Did that here stateside and overseas. We were in India for a season for 4 years, and been an entrepreneur for this last leg. So now primarily in construction. So we've got a few different projects that we're working on. And so love what I get to do, and love, you got me into this whole racing thing now. And so I will be back in Chicago, October, is it 11th?
So whatever the
11th.
second Sunday of October is.
Yeah.
We'll be towing the line.
We'll be towing the line together, buddy.
That's amazing.
So we just started, I'm in week 2 of marathon prep. So the mileage is up.
Yeah. We'll get in a run tomorrow together.
Yeah, it's feeling good.
It's been incredible to see. I mean, you were a Division I baseball player and football player, starting tight end for Baylor Bears. Sick'em, is that what y'all say?
Sick'em, that's right.
So you're a stud athlete, still look like you could play, in great shape. But the whole marathon thing, you told me many times, you're like, Johnny, never in my life will I run a marathon with you. That's just not, I'm a Clydesdale, like that's not what we do. And yet you finished your first marathon this fall in Houston, H-Town.
Yeah.
You got her done, and man, you are committed to not drift, and you've committed to that in every domain of your life. And so let's get into the book.
Yeah.
And I think a little intro is always helpful for folks listening to this or watching it on YouTube of, who is this guy? I've got a lot of friends, but there's only one Chris DeLeenheer, and why in the world did you write this book? So we're going to get into that. But take us back for this first episode. I want us to start with a story. You were at a men's retreat, and it's in the book, and you started to kind of size up other guys at the retreat, and you began to kind of move towards a place of ego and pride. And then it started raining, and it is like a full-blown rainstorm, thunderstorm. And you're there because you're trying to connect with God, and you hear God speak to you in a profound way. And what God said to you was, get out of my chair. Take us into the story.
Yeah. So, I had a friend in Waco that had gone to this men's retreat and had recommended it to me. And, I'm not like a big camp guy. Like, I don't like.
You're an indoorsman.
I'm more of an indoor guy, lawn chair kind of guy.
Avid indoorsman.
Yeah. But I felt like it was something I should, and it's like something you kind of like agree to like 3 or 4 months earlier.
Okay.
And then it kind of comes to the time when it is, and it's like, this isn't very convenient.
Yeah.
Why
did I commit to this?
Yeah. Why did I commit to this? This doesn't make sense. We just had closed on a new company. So I was like, kind of like eager to like get this project going. And so I show up, and, usually like these kind of events, you kind of make sure they're pretty curated as far as where you're staying, who's going to be there, who am I going to be able to network with, connect with. And it just wasn't one of those kind of events. It was, it wasn't a bunch of like entrepreneurs and CEOs and investors and, guys like that. And, I think I told you I'm reading, Ego is the Enemy.
Yeah. Great book.
And, I love the like kind of opening line in that is, the easiest person to deceive is yourself. And that was me. The hardest person to see is yourself. The hardest, it's like very easy to kind of like look at what other people probably need to be working on, but you're very unaware of what you need to be working on. And that's kind of the guy that showed up, I pulled up my brand new, Defender Range Rover, I just closed the deal, working out, I'm kind of in the process of getting back in shape. So on the outside, I'm like, I am stroking.
Yeah.
I'm doing
it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't come in this like kind of broken, frazzled state. I thought, man, I'm very clear on where things are going. And, they had this day that was a fast day where it was like no talking, no food, just out in this like kind of foresty area.
Okay.
in the middle of nowhere, Texas.
Mm.
And so, I go out on fast day. I have my water. I got my chair. I got my Bible and journal. I had like my list of questions that I planned on like kind of processing through work wise, kind of getting clarity on how we're going to like knock the next ball out of the park and all of these things. And I go and I notice it's like cloudy outside. And I was like, praise God, because this is Texas heat.
Yeah.
And so
little
I
cloud
was
cover
like,
is nice.
he's got me.
Yeah.
God's
Thank you,
got my
Lord.
back. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lord. And 15 minutes in, the raindrops start. And, 30 minutes in, it's like sideways thunderstorm rain. And I look and there's guys like trying to like run and get back into the house, and the doors are locked. Nobody can get in.
Come on.
So it's
like no, you gotta
you're pot committed.
figure it out. Yeah.
Struck by lightning.
Yeah,
It was the
fine.
Lord. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not totally sure of the like release for my sign, but it probably was in there.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm so mad. I'm just so frustrated. I'm like, I got things to do. I can't even journal. My stuff's all stuffed underneath my chair. I can't even like journal. I can't read my Bible. I'm just sitting in the rain. And it's like an hour goes by and then 2 hours, and I'm fuming mad. And I just hear this little like voice, and it's, get out of my chair. And you're kind of like, was that me? Was that the Lord? Like, what was that? And I just stay there. And like 5 minutes later, I hear, no, get out of my chair. And so, I take my umbrella because I'm like curled under my umbrella like this, trying to like, it's almost sideways so the rain doesn't hit me. And I stand up. And when I stand up, it's hard to describe because I've never had this happen before, but literally it felt like God began just telling me a poem in my head, and it just over and over again. And I called it the sin of success. It's actually in my office, and it was about the proud man. And he, basically was like, I kissed the prostitute. I hung out with tax collectors and drunkards, but is like, to the proud man, I go to war and I resist them. And I realized that the proud man doesn't have a seat at the table. And in the end, the Lord's like, you're the proud man. And it undid me. And I, the rain finally stopped, and I sat down in my chair and I just cried my eyes out because the Lord just graciously let me see me, and started convicting me of my self-righteousness, my arrogance, and some of the success I had, my independence. And I became aware of like the thought I had, because I had a few exits, and I became aware of my own thoughts of, I would wake up in the morning with this thought of, what do I want to do today? It wasn't, Jesus, what do you have for me? Father, this day is yours. It was, what do I want to do? And so I was like, I'm a functional atheist in a lot of ways. Like, I confess Jesus. I even do spiritual disciplines. It wasn't like I wasn't spending time with God, going to church, involved in community and things like that. I was doing all the things, but my heart was far from God. And, Jeremiah talks about, the heart is deceitful and sick. Who can understand it? And then, David then says, Father, search me and know me. See if there's anything in me. And I realized, I was like, man, I haven't prayed that in a long time. I haven't asked that. I haven't done the vulnerable thing. And so for the rest of the day, the Lord just kind of took me to the woodshed. And I got done. I went back into the house, and I think it looks like I just got out of a 10-round fight. I mean, I'm wet, I'm red-eyed, crying.
Yes.
And the director looks at me and he goes, all right, man of God, looked like something good happened out there.
Really?
And so the next morning we wake up, and they said, and we still haven't eaten yet. And they said, ask the Lord if you're supposed to eat or go back out and do more business with God. So, I'm starving. I'm a terrible faster.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've seen you eat.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't tell on camera, but you're 6'5", 200 and a lot. Yeah, you're a large man.
Yeah. And I'm like, Father, what do you want to do? And he goes, we're not done yet. And so I went back out.
Come on, round 2.
And went on round 2, and he just kind of continued to take me to the woodshed. But then on the second half of the day was when he really started putting me back together. And he saw there was promises I'd laid down. There was identities and things I'd forgotten. And he's like, do you want to pick that back up? Do you still want that? And so it was like very redemptive in the sense of like, he was like, I'm not done with you.
Oh, man.
And I came home from that completely changed. I drove home in silence, and I fell in love with solitude. I fell in love with silence. I'm a type A driven guy, but I've now made that like going into the woods, fasting, solitude thing a complete core of my life now. I do it every quarter because I find that we just naturally drift.
Let's use that to you saying that word drift. I'd love for you to talk about the phrase quiet drift. How'd you come up with that title? Is that when did that come about? It's hard to name a book.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So, when I originally started, when I originally was going to write the book, I was going to write it on imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And because that's what I felt like got really exposed in me was the shape shifting, the wanting to appear really successfo, wanting to be impressive, things like that, so you're always like, kind of like, I want you to see what I want you to see.
Yes.
And so that's what I was originally going to do it. But then as I started writing and like looking at my own story, what I realized is there's just this drift that happens. There's this drift that happens in culture, like just culture just kind of naturally kind of trying to move us into its value system and in its design of success, or like, this is when you've made it. And then there's this pull from the Holy Spirit to bring us back into our centering. And so I just said, there's just this quiet drift that happens in life that we have to become attuned to, because we're typically the last ones to be aware that we are actually drifting.
Yeah. And that's that phrase, most Christian leaders don't fail publicly, they drift quietly. I mean, as you were awakened to this, do you now spot it in others? Is this something that you're like, I just see it all the time?
Yeah. The interesting thing about the heart is you can't see it. And, the thing I'm burdened for, or I'm burdened for, but also feel very excited about is I think that there's, especially there's a lot of Christians in the church. There's really few followers of Jesus. And I think that's the work that God's doing. And so like a simple thing you can ask people is like, hey man, what's God talking to you about? How are you responding to it? What's the last thing God said? What'd you do with it? Could be a simple thing of like going and getting that guy a cup of coffee. It could be having this conversation with a kid. It could be apologizing to this coworker. I don't know what it is, but like, are you attuned, and is your heart staying responsive to what God is speaking to you? I think it's just easy for us, especially for ambitious type A guys, is like, we're really good on the outside of the cup, so give us a to-do list, give us like the action plan. But when we start talking about the internal motivations of the why behind the what we do, we kind of just squirm a little bit and get off centered. And I think that there's something in that of like, we need to learn how to live interior with the Lord as well.
Yeah. So you spent some time in India.
I did.
4 years. I remember when you telling me, Johnny, we're going to India. I'm like, Del, you're going to be the largest man in the whole country.
And I was.
And you were.
Yeah, I was.
It's like 100 degrees every day. And it was. You had a breakdown in India.
Yeah.
And take us into that just a little bit. What did you do in India? Well, what were you like? How'd you spend your time in India? It was,
Yeah.
you and Libby, you'd been married maybe a few years by that point. I know you had Priya in India, your first daughter,
Yeah,
right?
Priya was born 6 months before, but then
Oh, okay.
we had Lainey and Mackenzie in India.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, what life in India looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
I'm sure there's a lot of listeners right now considering moving to India.
yeah, for all of you looking to go, I've got your travel itinerary planned for you. Yeah, so we originally went to do church planning, and then also I started a business there. And so, I kind of had multiple new things happening. I'd never lived overseas, never planted churches overseas, never started a business, didn't go to business school. I'm a new dad and we're having more kids and I'm getting an MBA. So I have like all these
Wow.
things that are kind of spinning. And, for the first few years, it was phenomenal. God was moving.
And you were seeing like the Book of Acts,
of Acts happening in front of us. It was awesome.
Signs, wonders, healings, just all of it, and
The
then
whole
some.
nine. Yeah, it was just happening. And I just remember like I'm reading the Bible and I honestly had this thing of like, man, I feel sorry for people who don't get to come and experience this stuff because this stuff's real. And then I think just the kind of the force, the adrenaline just kind of starts running thin. And year 3 is when I had my first kind of like nervous breakdown where I'm sitting at the table like this, nothing had happened. It wasn't like some catastrophe hit. And the room just went black. And I look at Libby and I go, something happened. And I don't know what's going on. And she, immediately called a buddy in the US and I said, hey man, this is what's going on. And my heart's racing. I feel like I'm in a dark pit that I can't get out of. I don't even know how to describe it. And he said, man, it's a panic attack. You got to stop. And I sat in bed, I just laid in bed for a week and just cried my eyes out. Not because I was sad, just like the adrenaline, just everything was just like popping. The stress of just life over there and everything I was trying to do and carry just became too much. Did that for a week and then I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm back. I just need a little rest, a little pick me up, and I get back at it. 6 months later, happens again. And, what I began just kind of like the straws I kind of began reaching for, blaming Libby, realizing I'm not that dialed into my marriage. I'm not really that dialed into I so needed to feel successful. And, the business had started doing better and, we had, it was growing. We had a global client that we were working with that flew me to Southern California and we're kind of in conversations about, hey, do we buy your firm? Do we hire you to kind of be a strategy guy with us? And, I'm kind of seeing the like, oh, I just need to keep going because I'm almost there. Like all this hard work is about to pay off. And, so I'm in California and I decide, you know what? I'm just going to drive down to Waco, see my community, check in with some folks before I head back over to India. And I remember I'm driving and, when you fly into Dallas, you drive through Hillsboro and I'm in Hillsboro and.
Is that where Buc-ee's is?
Buc-ee's is everywhere. But
okay.
Yes, they're there. But yeah, they're like kind of down that 35.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I just start losing it, just start crying. Just the emotion of I'm falling apart. Externally, I look so successful.
Yes.
And internally, I am falling apart. And no one can see it except me. And I drive straight to my kind of mentor, pastor friend, Jimmy Seibert's house. And I show up his front door. I'm in tears. And I just look at him. I said, please help me. I'm about to blow up my life. I need help. And no one knows that I need help. So we stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And he's like, Deli, you're coming home. You're good. Here's what we're going to do with the business. Here's what we'll do with the team. You need to come home and let's just get you restored and get you what you need. But there was just this like drive of, I don't know if it was like fear of failure is a little bit of that. It's this like ambition thing that I didn't know what to do with. You know, some of it was like well intended. I want to see people come to Christ. I wanted to see the kingdom happen. I want to see my business work. I wanted to be, you know, my dad had invested some money into the company. I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
like he was like good and like I'd done a good job stewarding that. And I just honestly felt like just a massive failure. And, you know, probably on the outside, people were like, why? But internally I did. And so I came home and let the Lord start kind of putting pieces together. But the thing that was interesting is when I was in the woods, what I didn't realize is that when I came back from India, I moved into this place of like self-protection where I had felt like, you know, Lord, I kind of gave you everything. I gave you it all. I surrendered. I was like, whatever you want to do with my life. And it feels like you almost killed me. And so I got into this like kind of self-protective, kind of in my eyes, safe Christian way of living of like, I'll do the things, but the future is mine to hold. The direction is mine to hold. The desires are mine to have. And I need to make money so that I feel safe and protected. And I slowly started serving mammon. And, you know, that's the thing that, you know, in business circles of being like, yeah, I make money. And there's nothing wrong with making money, but do you serve money? Is that the ambition of what you're after? And it was my ambition. And, you know, I realized that I have a choice every day when I wake up is will I serve God and will I serve money? And that decision isn't static. I can't just make that decision and then sit on it for 6 months. It's a daily choice of waking up and choosing to wake up to serve the Lord versus serve money. And for a long time, I'd been waking up trying to figure out how to serve mammon.
I know there was a critical conversation you had with your wife one night. Libby's an incredible person, amazing human being. I just think the world of her. I thank God that he brought her into your life. A lot of times the Holy Spirit sounds like our wives. We have very similar wives in that way. And she said, you know, Chris, God's called you to be a Boaz, but you're acting like a Ruth. So tell us about that. What's going on there?
Yeah. You know, so just props to my wife. And the one thing I'll say about Libby is she gets me. You know, I'm a 8 on the Enneagram. I'm a huge visionary entrepreneur. I can kind of be a little all over the place at times. Hopefully less now. I'm learning to embrace a little more of the metronome lifestyle. But
and you have big time.
You know, my wife is not she's very honoring. Like I don't get and I know a lot of guys that they struggle. They feel like their wives are constantly nitpicking them and critiquing them. That's by the grace of God, that's not my story. So she doesn't correct me a lot. So she's not like constantly like, why are you doing this? Why do you do this? You know, like that's not how we operate. That's not how we relate to each other. And so when she sat me down one day and said, hey, I have a word for you that I've been sitting on for a while that I want to share with you. I knew that it was probably going to be the Lord before she said anything. Like I knew that this is something, one, that was uncomfortable for her because she's not a very confrontational person. And so, you know, she sits me down and she gives me that word. You know, God has called you to be a Boaz, a man who creates the field, who leads, who sets the tone. You know, you are the thermostat, not the thermometer, you know, kind of deal in leadership, but you're acting like a Ruth. And what I realized that I wasn't leading. I was like, I would kind of like shape shift and kind of like respond in the environment. And so, you know, I thankful I've got my buddies are very, very successful entrepreneurs, built some really fantastic companies. And I just was like, kind of like, you know, in some ways just kind of following their lead on like how I should do things and how I should live and, you know, how I should run my company, like all those things. And there's an element of like, you want to learn from your friends, but in the same way you need to lead. And there's there's things now that I look back of like, there's a lot that I bring to the table that I was diminishing. I look back at my 8 years in ministry and I'm like, God, why'd I do that? Like I feel behind. I always felt behind in my work because I spent the front end of my career in ministry. And I laugh at that now because that really is become the foundation of who I am, how I lead, how I invest in my businesses, how I invest in my people inside of our companies, were all the building blocks I got during my ministry days that I'm so grateful for, that I wouldn't have this,
Right.
like learning. I'm so grateful that I've learned how to hear the voice of God,
Yeah.
and I got that crafted and curated during those years that I don't know, maybe he would have done it if I would have gone straight into business school and into the market or whatever, but it made me really grateful for my story. And for so long, I had minimized, and I was like, I didn't want to talk about India. India was that like kind of like embarrassing season that I kind of stuffed under the bed. My ministry years was kind of that like wasted time that I could have been more productive and fruitful in what I was doing. I just had a wrong narrative of it. And because I had a wrong narrative about my past, I was living very fragmented in my present. And she called me out on that and just said, no, you're a leader and you need to lead in every environment. And it doesn't matter how big your balance sheet is. That's not how God assigns leadership, is by the size of a balance sheet. He's God that looks at our hearts.
Amazing.
And there was just a recentering that needed to happen.
And you felt yourself rise to that vision that she reminded you of.
Yeah, it obviously wasn't just like in the moment. It became a process. Obviously, us beginning to work together and begin stacking bricks and, getting clarity on who am I? How do I live? What's kind of this, one is like a standard, another's like kind of a rhythm and pace of like, what has God really called me to? And how do I live that out practically on a day-to-day basis? And so it's been a process of that. But that kind of was like a real catalyst to get me moving. But I remember when she told me, I was like, you're right. I mean, it was not like, what? I don't, it wasn't, kind of maybe typical me of like trying to defend it or like explain it. As soon as she said it, I was like, you're absolutely right. I need to change it. I don't know how to change. And so I need help.
Let's round third. Let's head towards home to close up part one of the opener of this. And what I'm thinking about is every person listening to this, what would you say to them? Perhaps they're not able to get to Texas and go to a retreat center. Maybe they don't have a full-blown panic attack in India. Not that either of those are necessary, but what would you say to that person right now listening that's like, oh, quiet drift? I'm sure somebody out there, but not me. Let's kind of finish up episode part one here.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Yeah, so just practically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so practically what I would encourage you is, if you're wondering, the best way to know, one of the worst things we can ever do in leadership is speculation, right? Assumption and speculation is where we get ourselves in trouble. We assume things are getting done. I always say, I love this. One of my dear friends says this. He's like, leadership is more than management, but it's never less. And so like when we talk about
That's
like
really good.
how we manage, the assumptions we have about, I assume I'm doing good. Have you heard the Lord say that? Like, if you want to know, you just need to hear it from the horse's mouth. And so building in a cadence that I would encourage, that's why Sabbath, I think, is so important. It could be 30 minutes of just you sitting down. You have these, 3 or 4 questions you ask the Lord about your week. I've moved it to where it's something I do at the end of my day. It's kind of, I call it my nightly examine. Okay. At the end of the day, just asking a simple, like, couple questions. Just simply ask, where did I see the Lord today? Father, is there anything today that grieved you? And so I want there to be an opportunity to, did I see the day right? And is there any places where I drifted that I need to just kind of get back in alignment?
Because you're just going through all that you've gone through. You're assuming that there's going to be drift in your own life every day.
I know there is.
Okay. And
I know there's drift.
So you're like, all right, what's the nightly, discipline, system, Rhythm, I think, is the word you used. I love that.
And so my drive home from the office is
Okay.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
I drive in silence. I ask my questions, and that's when I do it. And then on Sundays, I do that. And then quarterly is where I do a full day. If you're like, how do you do a silent retreat? I have a resource. If you go to my website, 85leadership.com, if you sign up for my newsletter, I'll send you a free copy of my silent retreat so that you can have that. It has the scriptures, the questions I ask, all of that, so that, you know, I always tell people, if you're going to do one of these, don't just
don't wing it. Yeah,
don't wing it and go into a black box. It's not like you just sit there in the lotus position waiting for God to speak. It's like there's movements. So there's like 5 to 6 movements that I do on those days. So they're very structured, but very open for the Holy Spirit to kind of lead and guide it.
All right, 85leadership.com. That's where folks can go to pick up one of these bad boys, right?
That's right.
They can order it on there. They can order it on Amazon as well. They can also download the free resource for that you just mentioned.
Yep.
All right, part 1, Chris DeLeenheer, author of The Quiet Drift. Well done. Thank you, man, for being faithful, and excited to continue the conversation.
Thanks, brother. Love you.